Life, an Exposé. Why Sentience Was a Terrible Idea by Danny Shine, social experimentalist. Dedication to the unborn, the only beings spared the joke. Part 1. Nature, the biological trap. If culture is the con, nature is the crime scene. Before society gets its claws into you, biology has already handcuffed you to a body that bleeds, breaks, panics, aches, hungers, fears, and eventually rots. Nature isn't your mother. Nature is the hostile landlord who hands you keys to a collapsing building and says, "Good luck, no refunds." Part 1 is the forensic report. Chapter 1, Sex, the scam that started it all. Life doesn't begin with meaning, purpose, or planning. It begins with sex, the most brilliantly executed con in evolutionary history. If reproduction required a logical argument, the human species would have ended in the Stone Age. Instead, evolution hacked your brain. It turned propagation into pleasure. It wasn't trying to bless you, it was trying to use you. The truth about how you got here. Most people like to imagine they were carefully planned, prayed for, or scribbled onto a vision board. Reality: 50% of American pregnancies are accidental, and the other 50% are either lying or redefining planned to include a broken condom, miscounted cycle, drunk weekend, boredom, loneliness, rebound, or it just happened. You weren't chosen. You were consequential spillover from a biological urge run by forces neither of your parents understood. I've asked thousands of people a simple question. Why does sex feel so good? Almost nobody knows. They think it's romance. They think it's intimacy. They think it's love. No. Sex feels good so genes can trick you into reproducing. Nature hacked your pleasure circuits so that in the moment of your highest bliss, you create a new being capable of pain, terror, sickness, trauma, heartbreak, toothache, cancer, arthritis, fear, and death. The orgasm, the peak of human pleasure, manufactures billions of future pain receptors. A fully developed human nervous system contains roughly 3.5 trillion nociceptors and sensory neurons capable of registering pain and suffering. So at the exact moment a man thinks he's touching paradise, his body is actually creating the raw materials for someone else's hell. If that isn't diabolical engineering, what is? The sex industry of nature. Sex is sold as connection, ecstasy, bonding, spiritual unity. But strip the marketing away and you get reality. Skin friction and hormones and dopamine and a reproductive gun held under the table. If sex were a consumer product, it would legally need a warning label. Contents may include pregnancy, gonorrhea, chlamydia, syphilis, HPV, herpes, HIV, trichomoniasis, and the worst STI of them all, childbirth, followed by mortgages, screaming toddlers, 4 a.m. feedings, collapsing relationships, mental breakdowns, care homes, and ultimately a coffin. Evolution didn't give you a pleasure for joy. It gave you pleasure for recruitment. Welcome to existence. You were conned into it. Chapter 2. Pregnancy, the 9-month hostage situation. Once sex pulls off its trick, pregnancy arrives like a biological takeover. Pregnancy is marketed as a miracle. In reality, it's a parasite scenario with better PR. A fertilized egg implants itself, modifies the mother's immune system so that she can't reject it, and then commandeers her body's resources. It's the only situation in nature where a host defends its invader. The bodily hijacking. Pregnancy symptoms include nausea so constant you consider removing your stomach, vomiting until blood vessels burst, heartburn that feels like internal acid warfare, swollen ankles, feet, face, hands, identity, back pain, rib flares, gestational diabetes, hypertension, fainting, insomnia, stretch marks, hemorrhoids, organs moving out of the way like terrified shop workers during a robbery, hair loss, hair growth in places that feel like pranks, pelvic instability, teeth loosening, gum bleeding, emotional hurricanes, leaking breasts, sciatica, varicose veins, UTIs, broken sleep, panic, depression, psychosis in 1 out of every 500 mothers. Pregnancy glow, that's sweat and cortisol. Nature's dark comedy. The unborn child can break the mother's ribs, steal her calcium and ruin her teeth, cause organ prolapse, trigger lifelong autoimmune conditions, and even kill her. And society calls this a blessing. Pregnancy is a 9-month siege during which the mother is expected to smile, remain polite, and not mention the fact that she feels like an occupied territory. Chapter 3. Birth. Trauma by design. If pregnancy is the hostage situation, birth is the violent escape attempt, except nobody escapes unscathed. Birth is a bloody, high-risk, agonizing surgical gamble that has been romanticized into the miracle of life, the reality of labor. Labor can last hours or days. It is pain at a level that defies language. Women describe it as being torn open from the inside, bones crushing each other, the body splitting, an axe to the pelvis, electrical fire in every nerve. Tearing is common, vaginal, perineal, internal. Sometimes women rip all the way to the anus. Blood everywhere, screaming, sweat, fear, and then people bring balloons. The caesarean illusion. C-sections are sold as routine. They are major abdominal surgery involving slicing through skin, fat, fascia, muscle, uterus, extracting a human being, stitching the mother back together like a butchered soft toy. Infection, hemorrhage, adhesions, standard risks. What about the baby? The baby's trauma. Birth is no picnic for the newborn either. They are crushed, squeezed, twisted, pulled, dislocated, sometimes vacuumed out, sometimes clamped by forceps, sometimes oxygen deprived, sometimes born with broken clavicles, sometimes born into silence. And then everyone declares it beautiful. The aftermath. Tears, bleeding, clots, shrinking uterus, mastitis, milk leaking, organs shifting back, stitches pulling, pain on sitting, pain on walking, pain existing. No, really, it's magical. Birth is not a miracle. It's carnage sold with pastel fonts. Chapter 4. Infancy. Mini prisoners of fear. Infancy is the period where humans are at their weakest and yet expected to be cherished memories. Infants are fragile biological experiments prone to choking, suffocating, sudden infant death, fevers, ear infection, respiratory infections, reflux, colic, screaming for hours, eczema, cradle cap, dairy allergies, projectile vomiting, hernias, jaundice, dehydration, seizures, infant cancers, congenital abnormalities. Toothless terrorists. Babies can't speak, can't move properly, can't regulate emotions, can't understand anything. Their only communication method is a siren that activates at 2 a.m. Sleep as torture. Parents spend the first year half conscious. Sleep deprivation destroys memory, mood, health, patience, and sanity. Infants may wake every hour, then every 20 minutes. Then both parents cry. Postnatal reality. Mum brain. Depression, psychosis, hormonal chaos, identity loss, loneliness, resentment, guilt, trauma. Infancy is not magical, it's biological boot camp. Chapter 5. Childhood, nature's playground of peril. Childhood is painted as innocent and joyful. Reality, it's a dangerous obstacle course. Children face broken bones, accidental poisonings, fever, allergies, asthma, drowning risks, choking hazards, scalding injuries, burns, skin infections, appendicitis, pneumonia, meningitis, testicular torsion, juvenile diabetes, leukemia, brain tumours, bone cancers, and dental hell, both decay, abscesses, drilling, and screaming. The biological comedy of teeth. Nothing screams evolutionary failure like the human mouth. Children endure cavities, nerve pain, extractions, braces, palate expanders, root canals. Toothache is among the worst pain known, and children get plenty. The emotional side. Childhood also includes nightmares, bullying, fear, abandonment panic, tantrums, accidents, shame, confusion. Childhood is not peaceful, it's chaotic survival. Chapter 6. Adolescence. Puberty, nature's practical joke. Puberty is the biological equivalent of a software update that breaks everything. The physical horrors. Teenagers suffer acne, oily skin, bodily odour, hair eruptions in strange places, voice cracks, crippling cramps, heavy bleeding, hormonal migraines, growth spurts, scoliosis, body dysmorphia, dental disasters, and the arrival of wisdom teeth. Every teenager is a malfunctioning chemistry set. The emotional hellscape. Adolescence is insecurity, anxiety, self-loathing, hormones rioting, mood swings, friend drama, betrayals, self-harm rates skyrocketing, eating disorders, panic, depression, suicidal ideation. Teenagers aren't dramatic, they're drowning in endocrine warfare. Chapter 7. Late Teens. Fresh meat. Late teens are sold as the best years of your life. Instead, they're a minefield. Young adults face car crashes, assaults, sexual violence, STDs, unwanted pregnancies, drug overdoses, alcohol poisoning, self-harm, exam stress, financial panic, loneliness, addiction, workplace exploitation, predatory bosses, and mental breakdowns. Nature hasn't eased up. Society has piled on. Chapter 8. The 20s and 30s. The illusion of freedom. This is when the world promises freedom and delivers bills. People in their 20s and 30s endure burnout, debt, anxiety, job instability, housing crises, relationships collapsing, fertility anxieties, miscarriages, chronic illnesses appearing, autoimmune conditions erupting, back pain, dental reconstruction, cancer diagnoses, existential dread, trapped by mortgages, trapped by children, trapped by tradition. You think you're building a life. You're building obligations. Chapter 9. Middle age, the slow motion collapse. Middle age is when the body begins sending warning letters. Common experiences: hypertension, weight gain, hair loss, sleep apnea, migraines, high cholesterol, joint degradation, arthritis, prediabetes, divorce, depression, career stagnation, cancer diagnoses, parents dying, hormonal shift, dental disasters, crowns, root canals, gum recession. By this stage, life feels less like a journey and more like maintenance. Chapter 10. Old age, humiliation by design. Old age is brutal. The body begins folding in on itself. Elderly people suffer dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, arthritis, so severe it distorts joints, chronic pain, cancer, strokes, heart disease, incontinence, bed sores, sight loss, hearing loss, falls, fractures, loneliness, abandonment. Dental horror, final edition. Gums recede, teeth fall out, dentures slip in soup, jawbone erodes, abscesses throb, implants fail, mouth sores burn, the mouth becomes a battlefield until the end. Old age is not golden, it's rust. Chapter 11. Death, the punchline. Death is the final biological insult. People die from cancer, organ failure, infections, sepsis, dementia, complications, falls, strokes, respiratory collapse. Death is often slow, painful, frightening, humiliating, medicalized, lonely, confused, and traumatic. And then, nothing. The entire ordeal ends with a formality and a bill. Chapter 12. Wrap up. Nature's trick from bedroom to box. Nature lures you with an orgasm and drags you through pregnancy, birth, infancy, childhood, adolescence, adulthood, middle age, decline, and death. A conveyor belt of entropy, and people call this a gift. Nature isn't benevolent. Nature is indifferent efficiency. Life is not miraculous. It's mechanical. You weren't born into paradise. You were born into a system that runs on suffering, decay, reproduction, and death. Part 2. Nurture, the cultural prison. If Part 1 showed how biology traps you, Part 2 shows how society seals the lid. Chapter 13. Education, indoctrination factories. If childhood is nature's playground of peril, school is culture's containment camp. People call it education, but it operates more like a processing plant for compliant citizens. It begins with small chairs and ends with small lives. Walk into any primary school and you'll see the first phase of conditioning. Children lined up like miniature factory workers, responding to bells, chanting rules, learning not how to think, but how to sit still. The message is clear. The world rewards obedience over curiosity. Then come the tests. Endless tests. Tests for reading, tests for handwriting, tests for fluency, tests for progress. Tests to determine whether a 7-year-old can perform under pressure like a middle manager trying to hit quarterly KPIs. Childhood becomes a dress rehearsal for adult failure metrics. Curiosity, meanwhile, gets mugged behind the bike sheds. By secondary school, the indoctrination becomes more refined. Teenagers are sorted into academic castes. Some are told they're gifted, which usually means they memorize things efficiently enough to become exhausted adults later. Others are told they're behind, as if the human brain were a conveyor belt product with a shipping deadline. And then, crucially, they are taught the 3 sacred lies of the modern world. Lie 1. Hard work guarantees success. Reality. Hard work guarantees exhaustion. Success is rationed. Lie 2. You can be anything you want. Reality. You can be whatever the economy needs, and only for as long as it needs you. Lie 3. School prepares you for life. Reality. It prepares you for paperwork, waiting rooms, and accepting things you don't like without screaming. Sex education appears like a clown with a health and safety manual, awkward diagrams, terrified teachers, anatomically confused bananas. Meanwhile, the real curriculum, consumerism, conformity, nationalism, runs silently under the desks. By graduation, students aren't educated, they're formatted. The school never taught them how to think, feel, heal, love, grieve, set boundaries, understand their minds, recognize manipulation, avoid debt, or question the culture. That would break the machinery. The point of school is not to produce citizens, it's to produce workers, voters, and believers. Chapter 14. Health and Sickness, the Medical Meat Grinder. Health is marketed as a right. In practice, it's a subscription model where your body fails and the system bills you for using it. Most people spend the first half of their lives trying to avoid doctors and the second half trying to find one who listens. The medical system isn't healing you, it's triaging you just enough to keep you participating in the economy, sick enough to need them but functional enough to work, a human repair and release program. Hospitals are the great levelers, fluorescent purgatories filled with beeping machines that sound like angels with dead batteries. People stagger in, coughing, limping, bleeding, wheezing, dissolving, and the system tries to hold back entropy with a clipboard. Every illness has its own comedy. Flu, the seasonal reminder you're basically a leaking bag of mucus. Kidney stones, pain so intense grown men negotiate with God. Autoimmune diseases, your body trying to evict itself. Cancer, cells freelancing without permission, creating their own startup inside your organs. Dentistry gets its own category of sadism. A civilization advanced enough to put satellites in orbit still can't fix tooth pain without drills, needles, suction tubes, and a man holding your mouth open like he's trying to retrieve a sock from a washing machine. The aging body becomes a medical subscription plan. Blood pressure meds, statins, acid blockers, painkillers, insulin, eye drops, inhalers. The monthly reminder that your warranty expired decades ago. The medical system isn't a temple, it's a meat grinder with sympathy cards. Chapter 15. Food, Poison, Addiction and the Conveyor Belt. Humans boast about being apex predators, but most behave more like apex consumers of beige sludge. Walk into any supermarket and behold the altar of edible chemicals. Bright packaging disguises the reality. Much of it is engineered addiction. Salt for the dopamine, sugar for the insulin spikes, fat for the evolutionary glitch, and preservatives so immortal they could survive a nuclear winter. The food system creates 3 kinds of humans. The overfed sick, diabetes, heart disease, obesity, fatty liver, joint failure, addiction to food that barely qualifies as food. Then there's the underfed poor, malnutrition, vitamin deficiencies, growing up stunted while watching McDonald's ads, and finally the confused middle, keto zealots, gluten police, Instagram vegans, and people who think celery juice is medicine. Meanwhile, agriculture quietly tortures the planet. Monocrops, pesticides, oceans of slurry, forests raised for beef. Nature pays the bill for our snacks. Food could have been nourishment. Instead, it's industrial entertainment. Chapter 16. Advertising, the hypnosis machine. Advertising is a multi-million-dollar hypnosis department designed to create insecurity and then sell solutions to it. Its core message is simple. You are not enough, but you could be if you buy this. Every advert is a tiny insult disguised as a promise. They tell you your body is wrong, your house is inadequate, your breath is offensive, your existence is insufficient. Then they offer products that don't fix the problem. They fix the discomfort of noticing it. Then they offer products that don't fix the problem. They fix the discomfort of noticing it. The purpose of advertising isn't to inform. It's to rewire desire. You didn't wake up craving a 4-pound iced mocha with whipped guilt cream. Someone in a boardroom put that craving in you, and it worked. Chapter 17. Social media, the dopamine slot machine. Social media is a casino for your nervous system. You pull the lever, scroll, hoping for a hit, like. Most of the time you lose, but occasionally you win. And that tiny win is enough to keep you playing until your soul is in overdraft. The platforms are designed to exploit your brain's 4 vulnerabilities. Number 1, attention hunger. Number 2, comparison anxiety. 3, tribal panic. 4, addictive loops. Doom scrolling is not a bug, it's the business model. Every swipe hijacks dopamine, erodes self-worth, distorts reality, feeds outrage, and trains you to respond to life like a lab rat with Wi-Fi. Relationships become filtered performance art. Reality becomes content. Humanity becomes metrics. This isn't communication, it's digital self-eating. Chapter 18, Religion, the original scam. Before advertising, before influencers, before governments, there was religion, the prototype of all cultural manipulation. Its ingredients are simple. Fear of death, ignorance of nature, authority in robes, promises you can't verify, rules you didn't write, guilt you can't shake, and rewards you can't inspect. Religion takes existential terror and rebrands it as meaning. It sells afterlives like travel agencies sell holiday packages. No one has returned to complain. Every religion claims exclusive truth, but they can't all be right. But they can all be useful for control. The original subscription model, pay with obedience, renew with fear. Some people escape religion only to join a secular version, political cults, identity cults, wellness cults, and the cult of self-optimization where you treat your body like a tech startup. Humanity is addicted to stories that make the pain feel purposeful. Chapter 19, Government, Law and Taxes, the big stick in a suit. Government is the adult version of because I said so. Law is the codified list of acceptable behaviours. Taxes are the fee for existing in someone else's system. The police are the armed customer service department. The courts are the complaint escalation team. Prisons are the time-out corner for grown-ups. Every government claims it exists to protect you. Reality, it exists to manage you. You don't vote for freedom, you vote for which group of strangers will regulate your freedoms. Meanwhile, taxes, your mandatory membership fee, pay for everything from schools to roads to bombs you will never personally drop. Opting out is illegal, freedom with conditions. Democracy is picking a flavour of control. Authoritarianism is being force-fed it. Either way, you get governed. Chapter 20, Mental Health, Diagnosing the Human Condition. Mental health problems are so common they're basically the default settings of the human mind. Depression, anxiety, trauma, attachment wounds, addiction, dissociation, loneliness, existential dread, burnout, intrusive thoughts. The DSM reads like the human experience written honestly. Society treats these issues as personal failures rather than symptoms of existing in a system built on competition, scarcity, noise, overstimulation, fear, and disconnection. If a plant wilts, we fix its environment. If a human wilts, we give them a motivational quote and a bill. Therapy helps, but often you're just learning coping strategies for a system that causes the wounds in the first place. Mental illness isn't a glitch. It's a mirror held up to the culture. Chapter 21. Money, the Grand Illusion. Money is the world's most successful myth, a belief system printed on cotton paper. It stands in for value, security, freedom, status, virtue, safety, and identity. We worship it because everyone else does, but money is also a leash, a scoreboard, a carrot, a stick, a universal anxiety source. People trade their time, health, relationships, passions, and dreams for numbers on a screen. And for what? To buy back small pieces of the freedom they sold to acquire the money in the first place. Money is a magician. It turns life into labour. It turns dreams into debts. It turns humans into resources. No one owns money. Money owns everyone. Chapter 22. Police, Law and Injustice, the Enforcers of the Scam. The police are not there to keep you safe. They're there to keep the system safe from you. They enforce laws written by people you didn't meet for reasons you weren't told, with punishments you didn't vote for. Justice is a lottery. Rich criminals get lawyers, poor innocents get records, courts get fees, and prisons get new inventory. Crime is also culture-specific. If you lived in a different country, a different decade, or under a different religion, half of what you do daily would make you a criminal. Law is arbitrary power with a hat on. Chapter 23. The Cost of Existence. Paying to Suffer. People love to say life is priceless, but the truth is much simpler and much uglier. Life is extremely expensive, and you pay for the privilege of suffering. From the moment someone forces you into existence, a silent meter starts running. Every day you live, the world bills you for air that's polluted, food that's poisoned, housing that's unaffordable, healthcare that's bankrupting, and eventually a care home that costs more than a Caribbean holiday resort. Let's expose the numbers. Housing. The lifetime roof tax. Human existence comes with a mandatory requirement, a box to sleep in until the final box you're buried in. And because renting can implode at any moment, redundancy, cancer, divorce, or your landlord waking up spiritually motivated to sell, a lifetime roof really means buying one of the following prisons. Option A, basic survival unit, a Croydon high-rise. A 2-bedroom, concrete rectangle with a lift that smells like warm cider and despair. Your neighbours blast drill music at 3 a.m. The walls sweat moisture, and the local corner shop stocks more types of energy drink than vegetables. Price tag, £300,000. You haven't even moved in yet, and your pulse is already rising. Option B, middle-class illusion, Enfield semi-detached. A semi-detached box with a garden so small you could mow it with scissors. Neighbours peer over your fence to audit your recycling habits. You'll spend 30 years pretending it's nice. Price tag, £700,000. Option C, top-tier delusion, Hampstead Garden suburb mansion. Gated drive, Labradors on the lawn, neighbours who sue each other over hedge height. A house so large you could lose your will to live in 3 different rooms simultaneously. Price tag, £4 million. This is not luxury, it's the entry fee to not freezing outdoors. Utilities and bills, paying to keep the lights on. Congratulations, you bought the roof, now pay for the right to be inside it. Heating, electricity, broadband, water, council tax, the basic ingredients to stop modern humans from rioting. Breakdown, basic living, £500 a month, £6,000 a year. Middle class comfort, £800 a month, £9,600 a year. Top tier lifestyle, £1,500 a month, or £18,000 a year. Over a 75-year life, anywhere from £450,000 to £1.3 million, just to keep the house warm enough to pretend winter isn't trying to kill you. Netflix buffering is included at no extra cost to your sanity. Food, the 82,000 meals tax. You will eat roughly 82,000 times before you die. Each one is a direct debit. Your options: basic diet, little beans, frozen chips and bread that goes stale before you get home. That's £150 a month, £1,800 a year, or £135,000 per lifetime. Middle class diet, Aldi organic veg, hummus, occasional Deliveroo shame orders, £400 a month, £4,800 a year, or £360,000 per lifetime. Top tier diet, Waitrose, Ottolenghi takeaways, artisan sourdough, olives, and multi-syllabic names. £1,200 a month, £14,400 a year, or 1.08 million per lifetime. And that's before you discover kombucha, turmeric shots, craft beer, vegan sushi, or raw cacao meditation brownies. Clothing and lifestyle, the human accessories tax. Being alive requires a costume, and that costume deteriorates constantly. Phones, laptops, toiletries, trainers, coats, haircuts, deodorant, gym memberships you don't use, Netflix, insurance, a holiday once in a blue moon if you're lucky. Basic. Primark and Caravan holiday in Clacton, £200 a month, £2,400 a year, and £180,000 for a lifetime. Middle class. Zara, an annual family holiday abroad, that's going to cost you £540,000 per lifetime. Top tier. Gucci trainers, ski trips, yoga retreats, iPhone upgrades every 24 months, £2,000 a month, £24,000 a year, 1.8 million per lifetime. Nothing says I'm participating society quite like £150 trainers the child destroys in 3 weeks. Education, paying to train the prisoner. Education is not free, even when it claims to be. Uniforms, lunches, school trips, after-school clubs, lost jumpers, fundraising for playground equipment the council won't pay for. The uni fees, student loans, textbooks, termly bloody blood sacrifices. Basic, £1,000 a year. Middle class, £5,000 a year. Top tier, £30,000 a year. That's private school and elite university. Across 20 years, that's between £20,000 and £600,000. For a qualification that may or may not lead to a job that may or may not survive the next recession. Healthcare, the slow decline subscription. The NHS is free in theory, slow in practice and collapsing in real time. If you want adequate care, you're paying. Dentistry alone is financial terrorism. Basic, NHS and private dentists, £500 a year. Middle class, insurance and extras, £2,000 a year. Top tier, Harley Street, £10,000 a year. Over 75 years, that's between £37,500 and £750,000. Your body is a machine that falls apart at random intervals, and healthcare is the garage that charges you £120 for having a look. Old age, the final invoice. This is where the system collects its final brutal tax. Care homes cost more than luxury hotels. The difference? No cocktails, no pool, and the activities involve fewer water slides and more chair yoga. Basic, 5 years at £30,000 a year is £150,000. Middle class, 7 years at £50,000 a year, £350,000. Top tier, 10 years at £100,000 a year, that's £1 million. You spend a lifetime paying to stay alive and then pay again for the privilege of declining. Final totals. The lifetime cost of being alive comes to basic existence, 4.5 million, middle class existence, 6 million, top tier existence, 9.5 million, and that's for an able-bodied person. If you're chronically ill, disabled, neurodivergent, traumatized, unlucky, or merely human, double it, triple it, or quadruple it, and mortgage your soul. Parents don't create life. They create financial liabilities with nerve endings. Chapter 24, the Environmental Bill, leaving the planet worse than you found it. Every human is an ecological event, a walking carbon footprint wrapped in a consumption habit. An average Western life emits hundreds of tons of CO2, thousands of animals killed, millions of litres of polluted water, a landfill legacy that lasts centuries. We produce more waste in a day than our ancestors did in a month. The planet isn't suffering because of a few corporations. It's suffering because of all of us, all the time. Every birth is another lifetime subscription to planetary extraction. Chapter 25, Wild Animal Suffering, Nature's Forgotten Prisoners. If you think human life is rough, try being a wild animal. Most animals don't live Disney lives. They starve, freeze, overheat, get parasites, get infections, get eaten alive, or die trying to reproduce. Nature is not peaceful. It's a 24/7 agony arena. For every majestic lion you see in a documentary, there are cubs dying of dehydration, zebras with half-eaten legs running from predators, birds slowly strangled by plastic, elephants mourning calves shot by poachers, fish suffocating in nets. Nature is not a sanctuary, it's an unregulated torture chamber. Yet people romanticize it because they don't live in it. Chapter 26. Human-caused animal suffering, the factory farm holocaust. Humanity runs the single largest industrial killing machine in history. Every year we slaughter 80+ billion land animals, 1 to 3 trillion fish, tens of billions of crustaceans, billions of birds, billions of insects in labs. These creatures live in conditions that would violate every human rights convention ever written. Cages so small you can't turn around, crates where you can't stand, forced impregnation, grinding male chicks alive, boiling animals in tanks while conscious. It isn't food production, it's mass torture disguised as dinner. Chapter 27. Identity, Gender and the Modern Culture War. Culture now manufactures identity confusion like it manufactures celebrities, fast, loud, and with maximum drama. Children barely tall enough to ride bumper cars are subjected to ideological tugs of wars. Schools introduce concepts more complex than their nervous systems can integrate. Parents panic, politicians salivate, social media weaponizes nuance into theatre. Trans people deserve dignity, safety, and peace, but the cultural battleground around them has turned their existence into content, propaganda, and clickbait. Kids are now taught about sex, gender, kink, identity, and the orientation before they're taught how to regulate emotions or understand their own boundaries. It's not education, it's confusion as curriculum. A generation raised online is trying to understand itself while being pulled apart by adults who treat them like pieces in a culture chess game. Chapter 28. Surveillance, Data Harvesting, and the New Panopticon. In the past, Big Brother watched you. Today, Big Tech listens, predicts, records, triangulates, infers, models, profiles, nudges, and monetizes you. Your phone knows your sleep patterns, your gait, your stress level, your menstrual cycle, your political leanings, your relationship stability, your addictions, and your fears. You're not a user, you're inventory. Surveillance is not about safety, it's about ownership, and you are the product. Chapter 29. Manufactured Discontent, How They Make You Hate Your Life. The system cannot function if you feel enough. Contentment is a threat to GDP, so the culture manufactures discontent like a factory. Beauty standards ensure you hate your face. Lifestyle ads ensure you hate your home. Career propaganda ensures you hate your job. Dating apps ensure you hate your relationship. Fitness influencers ensure you hate your body. Spiritual coaches ensure you hate your mind. And motivational gurus ensure you hate your progress. Every dissatisfaction creates a purchase. Every fear creates a dependency. Every insecurity creates a market. A content person is dangerous. They don't need anything. Chapter 30. Part 2. Wrap up. The Total Pain Factory. Nature builds a prison. Culture decorates it. If biology lays the trap, society installs the locks. If your body provides the suffering, culture provides the meaning-making illusions that justify it. Part 2 has exposed the cage bars, schools that tame curiosity, healthcare that patches bodies for labour, food that addicts, advertising that hypnotizes, social media that harvests dopamine, religion that sanctifies obedience, government that regulates freedom, law that enforces hierarchy, money that owns your time, culture that manufactures insecurity, industry that tortures billions of non-human lives, identity politics that confuses the young, surveillance that owns your data, the environment that buckles under it all. You're not living freely, you're being lived by systems that predate you and will outlast you. And yet people still breed, still invite innocence into the machine. Part 3. Why create more problems? If Part 1 exposed nature's brutality, and Part 2 exposed culture's insanity, Part 3 asks the only question left. Why on earth would anyone willingly recruit another innocent being into this catastrophe? Chapter 31. Why? The Tragedy of Human Motivation. Human reproduction is not a rational act. It's a psychological magic trick performed by biology, tradition, ego, hormones, culture, fear, loneliness, and the absolute refusal to think too deeply. People don't breed because they've carefully examined the experience of life and concluded, yes, this would be an excellent gift. They breed because, 1, hormones hijack them. Oxytocin whispers that a baby will save the relationship. Dopamine promises joy. Testosterone encourages risk-taking. Estrogen nudges bonding. You're not deciding, your endocrine system is. 2, culture bullies them. You'll regret it if you don't. You'll be lonely. You won't be a real adult without kids. You don't know love until you've had one. Translation: you must join this multi-generational pyramid scheme. 3, mortality terrifies them. People think children will extend them, outlive them, immortalize them. They confuse genetic continuity with legacy. Reality: your child will forget almost everything about you within 2 generations. You will be a faded photograph at best, a name on Ancestry.com at worst. Ego demands replication. People believe they are so special that the universe needs another copy. This delusion is rarely challenged because society reinforces it. 5, fantasy replaces reality. They imagine a smiling toddler with soft curls and chubby cheeks. They do not imagine vomiting colic, hospital corridors, teenage contempt, school refusal, dental bills, cancer wards, dementia caregiving, and funerals. Fantasy is free, reality is expensive. 6, they were never taught to think. As we saw in part 2, education doesn't teach introspection. Religion discourages it, culture punishes it, advertising distracts from it, social media burns it alive. Humans don't think about why they breed, they wonder what pram to buy. 7, Dawkins was right. Humans are survival machines for genes and memes. You didn't decide to want a baby, your genes decided for you. Your culture reinforced it, your family approved it, and your brain invented a story to justify it. Biology is using you, culture is using you, and you call it purpose. This chapter asks why. The rest of part 3 answers. Please don't. Chapter 32, Prison Planet, Incarnation as Incarceration. Imagine this. You're sentenced to life without parole on a hostile planet. Every inmate ages, sickens, loses people, suffers, fears, decays, and dies. It's a prison so large and so old that prisoners mistake it for normality. Welcome to Earth. Being born is forced entry into a penal colony. Here's the comparison. Prison sentence. No choice, daily routine, surveillance, loss of autonomy, punishment for rule violations, violence, depression, institutionalization. You eventually die inside the system. Being alive, no choice. Other people broke your waters. Daily routine, commute, chores, work. Surveillance, phones, cameras, data mining. Laws, taxes, obligations, punishments for misbehavior. Violence, war, crime, and domestic violence. Depression, 40% lifetime prevalence. Institutionalization, school, work, retirement homes. You eventually die inside the system. Now ask yourself, if you were given a life sentence, would you create a child to accompany you? Most parents do exactly that, blind to the fact that they're not inviting someone to life, they're inviting someone to bondage. Birth is not liberation, it's enrollment. And death, that's your parole hearing. Chapter 33, The Cult of Baby. There is no cult more powerful, more manipulative, more adored, more unquestioned, or more absurd than the cult of baby. Its doctrines: 1. Babies are blessings, even when the parents are miserable. 2. Babies bring meaning, even when the parents lose themselves. 3. Babies are gifts from the universe, even when the universe seems indifferent. The cult rewrites suffering as sanctity. A woman screaming through labour? Beautiful. A couple drowning under bills? Worth it. A father in burnout? That's love. A mother in postnatal depression contemplating the void? Just hormones. A child with cancer? God gives the hardest battles to his strongest soldiers. No other industry has better PR. The baby industrial complex. Maternity wear, strollers, formulas, nurseries, baby tech, photography, gender reveal merchandise, fertility clinics, IVF, doula services, apps, blogs, influencers, baby yoga, toddler mindfulness, placenta smoothies. Billions in profit, trillions in expectation, zero refunds. Parents think they're joining a family. They're joining a cult where the deity is helpless, the sacrifices are endless, and the worship never stops. Chapter 34, The Child-Free Life. There is a life most people never see because they're too busy changing nappies, negotiating tantrums, and Googling, is it normal if a baby doesn't sleep for 17 consecutive months? It's the life of the child-free, a life where sleep exists, money accumulates, hobbies grow, relationships breathe, travel is possible, spontaneity survives, stress eases, time belongs to you, identity is self-directed, health improves, mental stability has a chance. The child-free don't hate children, they simply enjoy freedom. A parent's life is gravitational collapse. The child-free life is orbital. One pulls everything inward until nothing else exists. The other creates space. Most parents resent the child-free privately, not because the child-free are wrong, but because they're proof that another life was possible. Chapter 35, Alternatives to Reproduction. People breed because they think babies are the answer, but babies are more like the question. What problem in your life are you trying not to look at? There are alternatives. 1. Adoption. Already existing humans need care. Why create more? 2. Fostering. Help without inventing new pain receptors. 3. Mentorship and community. Be the wise adult others needed. 4. Creativity. Books, art, projects. Children of the mind. 5. Purpose. Service, activism, compassion. 6. Healing your own wounds before replicating them. 7. Loving fully without dragging a third party into the equation. Most people don't want children. They want connection, meaning, stability, companionship, continuity, identity, a project, a reason to tidy the house. None of these require creating a nervous system that can feel agony. Parenthood is not the only path. It's just the loudest one. Chapter 36, Comparing the actual person to your fantasy. Every child begins as a fantasy. The fantasy is perfect. The actual person is not. People picture glowing cherubs. In reality, they get autistic kids, ADHD kids, anxious kids, defiant kids, disabled kids, traumatized kids, depressed teens, violent teens, addicts, dropouts, runaway adults, resentful adults, dying adults. Children are not blank pages. They're biological dice throws wrapped in cultural conditioning. Parents project fantasies. Children live realities. The tragedy is simple. Every child is forced to carry the burden of someone else's unmet expectations. Chapter 37. Why breed when you already have an inner child to feed? Most adults have a wounded child inside them, confused, frightened, unseen, unheard, and desperate for validation. Instead of healing this inner child, people create a new one, not because they're ready, but because they're trying to outsource their healing. Your inner child needs attention, safety, voice, compassion, forgiveness, and joy, but instead you bring in an actual child who now has to deal with your unresolved trauma, your unconscious fears, your emotional shadows, your coping mechanisms, your unmet needs, your projections, and your history. People say, I want to give my child the life I never had. The truth is, first give yourself the life you never had. Until you feed your inner child, you have no business creating a new one. Chapter 38, Appreciation. People sometimes object to antinatalism by saying, but life has beautiful moments, shouldn't we appreciate them? Yes, appreciation exists, gratitude exists, joy exists, love exists. But here's the truth no one wants to accept. You can appreciate life without forcing another person to endure it. Appreciation is a consolation prize, not a justification for reproduction. I, the author, can appreciate kindness, friendship, sunsets, art, music, laughter, the NHS staff for caring for me, the privilege of living in the West, the comforts I've had, the beauty I've seen, the absurdity I've lived through. Yet here I am, 58 years old, diagnosed with terminal cancer, hit by a car, writing this from a hospital bed. I appreciate the nurses, I appreciate the compassion, I appreciate the morphine. I do not appreciate being forced into existence. You can appreciate a warm blanket in a cold prison. That doesn't mean you should build new cells or invite new prisoners. Chapter 39. Stop throwing bodies into the fire. Life is a burning house. Everyone is trying to escape. No one gets out alive. But instead of helping people out of the smoke, Society encourages parents to throw more babies into the fire. Have kids, grow the economy, fulfill your purpose, continue the family name. This is not love, it's arson. Every new birth is another set of pain receptors, another mouth to feed, another brain that can break, another heart that can shatter, another body that can suffer, another soul that can burn out. If life is suffering, and it is, biology, culture, physics and statistics agree, then the most compassionate act is to prevent unnecessary suffering. You don't fight a fire by adding fuel. Chapter 40, Final Verdict, Closing Argument. This book exposed nature as a torture chamber, culture as a factory farm for humans, and reproduction as the recruitment mechanism. The verdict is simple. Life is not a gift. It is a responsibility you have no right to impose on someone else. If a person cannot consent to being created, you cannot morally create them. If suffering is guaranteed and pleasure is conditional, and death is mandatory, and the world is burning, the only ethical response is abstention. Not nihilism, not despair, not doom, just responsibility. This isn't about ending humanity. It's about ending involuntary suffering, and it starts with the simplest act. Do not create what you cannot protect from harm. Life is a game no one asked to play. The kindest move is not to drag a new player onto the board. Epilogue. Abolitionism 2.0. History is full of grand moral awakenings. Humanity once believed slavery was normal, child labour was acceptable, animal torture was entertainment, women were property, earth was flat, and monarchs were divine. And each time a small group of people looked at the status quo and said the most dangerous word in the human language, no. Those were the abolitionists, people who demanded that suffering be reduced not by improving the system, but by removing the injustice at its root. But abolitionism stopped too soon. They freed the slaves, they fought for rights, they reformed institutions, they never questioned the deepest, oldest, most widespread form of involuntary bondage, existence itself. Every being born is drafted into a life sentence they did not choose, a biological gauntlet of pain, sickness, loss, decay and death. Parents call it a gift, religion calls it a blessing, politicians call it growth, advertisers call it a market, economists call it the workforce. But the truth is older, simpler and harder to stomach. Life is the imposition. Suffering is the consequence. Death is the guarantee. Abolitionism 2.0 means recognizing that the greatest preventable harm in the universe is the creation of sentient beings capable of agony. You don't end suffering by treating it. You end suffering by not manufacturing it. No new prisoners, no new pain receptors, no new bodies thrown into the burning house, no new souls handed a biological time bomb. If humanity wishes to be moral, not spiritual, not religious, not patriotic, not productive, but genuinely moral, then the first and most essential step is stop creating victims. Let the suffering that already exists be the last of its lineage. Let compassion outweigh instinct. Let wisdom outweigh tradition. Let responsibility outweigh desire. Let empathy outweigh ego. And let the billions of unborn remain exactly where they are, safe, not in heaven, not in limbo, not in potential, but in the one state where suffering is possible, non-existence. Abolitionism 2.0 is not anti-life, it's pro-mercy, pro-consent, pro-compassion, pro-ending the conveyor belt of unnecessary harm. Nothing could be more human than choosing not to create that which will eventually break. May this book be one small step toward that vision. Author's note. This book is not an attack on the living. It is a defense of the never created. I did not write this because I am hopeless. I wrote it because I am hopeful that suffering can be reduced not through miracles or medicine, but through courage and clarity. If you felt offended, good. If you felt liberated, better. If you felt seen, you're not alone. If you felt uncomfortable, welcome to thinking. This is not a manifesto, it's a mirror. Acknowledgements. Thanks to nature for being the original horror director, humanity for providing endless material, religion for proving fiction sells better than truth, governments for being proof that comedy is real, dentists for reminding us that evolution has a sense of humour, the NHS nurses who patched me together after life got creative, and to every parent who ever said, "You'll understand when you have kids." I do understand. That's why I wrote this. Appendix. The Catalogue of Human Fragility. An index of the thousands of ways a body and mind can fail. Before you dive into the list, let's be clear about why it exists. People love to say life is precious, as though being alive were a rare privilege rather than a biological accident attached to a long menu of possible malfunctions. What they don't say, because it ruins the mood, is that the human organism is one of the most catastrophically vulnerable machines ever produced by nature. Your body is a temporary arrangement of proteins, fluids, and electrical impulses held together with wishful thinking and dental floss. It can be destroyed, disabled, derailed, infected, inflamed, or taken offline by literally thousands of conditions. Viral, bacterial, fungal, genetic, autoimmune, neurological, psychiatric, developmental, traumatic, degenerative. The human failure modes are so numerous and so varied that no single doctor specializes in all of them. That's how delicate the system is. This appendix exists for a simple reason: to show, without illusion, how absurdly dangerous and unstable the human condition truly is. It is not here to frighten you. Nature already did that job. It is not here to depress you. Life has its own methods. It is here to remove the last remaining excuse for creating new humans. Because when you see the sheer volume of things that can, and routinely do, go wrong with a human body and mind, the idea of manufacturing new ones becomes less like a miracle and more like reckless biological gambling with someone else's well-being. This appendix is the fine print of existence, the disclaimer missing from every gender reveal party, the medical truth never printed on a birth certificate. Welcome to the list. Welcome to the reality. Welcome to the index of suffering that every human is forced to play biological roulette with. And now, in the spirit of honesty, here are the thousands of physical and mental illnesses, disorders, diseases, and dysfunctions a human can suffer through no fault of their own, simply because someone wanted a baby. Appendix, full clinical list of diseases. Let's begin with neurological conditions. Under neurological disorders, we have Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, motor neuron disease, Huntington's disease, epilepsy, multiple sclerosis, MS, cerebral palsy, migraine, cluster headaches, stroke ischemic and hemorrhagic, traumatic brain injury, peripheral neuropathy, Guillain-Barré syndrome, myasthenia gravis, dystonia, Tourette syndrome, ataxia hereditary and spinocerebellar. Moving on, under cardiovascular disorders, we have hypertension, high blood pressure, atherosclerosis, coronary artery disease, CAD, angina, myocardial infarction, heart attack, heart failure, congestive, arrhythmias, atrial fibrillation, ventricular tachycardia, etc. Cardiomyopathy, dilated, hypertrophic restrictive, valvular heart disease, aortic stenosis, mitral regurgitation, peripheral artery disease, PAD, deep vein thrombosis, DVT, pulmonary embolism, PE, aneurysms, aortic, cerebral, etc. Congenital heart defects. Next, under respiratory disorders, we have asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, pneumonia, tuberculosis, TB, pulmonary fibrosis, lung cancer, cystic fibrosis, sleep apnea, pulmonary hypertension, occupational lung diseases, silicosis, asbestosis, coal workers' pneumoconiosis, ARDS, acute respiratory distress syndrome, Finally, under cancers, here are some of the major types: lung cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, pancreatic cancer, ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, endometrial cancer, liver cancer, hepatocellular carcinoma, kidney cancer, renal cell carcinoma, bladder cancer, brain tumors, glioblastoma, astrocytoma, meningioma, skin cancers, melanoma, basal cell, squamous cell carcinoma, testicular cancer, thyroid cancer, leukemias, AML, ALL, CML, CLL, lymphomas, Hodgkin, non-Hodgkin, multiple myeloma, sarcomas, soft tissue bone. Let's continue the catalogue. Under infectious diseases, we have HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis or TB, malaria, hepatitis A, B, C, D, and E, influenza, COVID-19 caused by SARS-CoV-2, measles, mumps, rubella, polio, tetanus, diphtheria, pertussis, also known as whooping cough, chickenpox and shingles, caused by the varicella zoster virus, human papillomavirus, or HPV, herpes simplex virus, types 1 and 2, dengue fever, yellow fever, Ebola virus disease, Zika virus, rabies, cholera, typhoid fever, plague caused by Yersinia pestis, leprosy, also known as Hansen's disease, syphilis, gonorrhea, chlamydia, Lyme disease, meningitis, including bacterial, viral, and fungal forms, sepsis. Next, moving into immune-related illnesses. Under autoimmune and inflammatory disorders, we have rheumatoid arthritis, systemic lupus erythematosus, or SLE, psoriasis, psoriatic arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, coeliac disease, type 1 diabetes mellitus, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, Graves' disease, multiple sclerosis, which also appears under neurological conditions, Sjögren's syndrome, vasculitis, including giant cell arteritis and polyarteritis nodosa, myositis, including dermatomyositis and polymyositis. Now moving on to the metabolic and hormonal system. Under metabolic and endocrine disorders, we have type 2 diabetes mellitus, obesity, metabolic syndrome, hypothyroidism, hyperthyroidism, Addison's disease, Cushing's syndrome, polycystic ovary syndrome, or PCOS, hyperlipidemia, meaning high cholesterol and triglycerides, osteoporosis, rickets and vitamin D deficiency, pituitary tumors, acromegaly. Next, let's move into the digestive system. Under gastrointestinal and liver disorders, we have gastroesophageal reflux disease, or GERD, peptic ulcer disease, irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, inflammatory bowel disease, including Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, diverticulitis, coeliac disease, gallstones, also called cholelithiasis, pancreatitis, cirrhosis, fatty liver disease, including NAFLD and NASH, hepatitis, which may be viral, alcoholic, or autoimmune, stomach cancer, colorectal cancer. Now shifting to the kidneys and urinary tract. Under renal and urinary disorders, we have acute kidney injury, or AKI, chronic kidney disease, or CKD, end-stage renal disease, or ESRD, kidney stones, polycystic kidney disease, glomerulonephritis, urinary tract infections, or UTIs, bladder cancer, prostate enlargement, also known as BPH. Next, the bones and muscles. Under musculoskeletal disorders, we have osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoporosis, gout, fibromyalgia, scoliosis, muscular dystrophies, Paget's disease of bone, spinal disc herniation, tendinitis and bursitis. Next, the blood and its components. Under blood and hematological disorders, we have anemia, including iron deficiency, pernicious and aplastic forms, thalassemia, sickle cell disease, hemophilia, polycythemia vera, thrombocytopenia, leukemias listed previously under cancers, lymphomas also listed under cancers, multiple myeloma also under cancers. Now moving to the skin. Under dermatological disorders, we have eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, psoriasis, acne vulgaris, rosacea, vitiligo, melanoma, noted earlier under cancers, basal cell carcinoma, also under cancers, squamous cell carcinoma, also a cancer, alopecia areata, scabies, skin infections, including impetigo, cellulitis, and fungal infections. Finally, we arrive at reproductive health. Under reproductive disorders, we have endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, again PCOS, uterine fibroids, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, prostate cancer, erectile dysfunction, infertility, both male and female, menopause symptoms, testicular cancer, Appendix C, DSM-5, Mental Disorders Catalogue. Let's go through the DSM-5-TR categories. Neurodevelopmental disorders. Under neurodevelopmental disorders, we have intellectual disability, sometimes called intellectual developmental disorder. We also have global developmental delay, unspecified intellectual disability. In communication disorders, we include language disorder, speech sound disorder, childhood onset fluency disorder, also known as stuttering, social pragmatic communication disorder, and unspecified communication disorder. Autism spectrum disorder is also part of this category, alongside attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or ADHD, specific learning disorder, which may involve impairments in reading, writing, or mathematics. Under motor disorders, we have developmental coordination disorder, stereotypic movement disorder, and the family of tic disorders, including Tourette's disorder, persistent or chronic motor or vocal tic disorder, and provisional tic disorder. We also include other specified tic disorder and unspecified tic disorder, schizophrenia, spectrum and other psychotic disorders. Under this category, we have schizotypal personality disorder, delusional disorder, including erotomanic, grandiose, jealous, persecutory, somatic, mixed, and unspecified types. Brief psychotic disorder, schizophreniform disorder, schizophrenia. Schizoaffective disorder, which can be bipolar type or depressive type. We also have substance or medication-induced psychotic disorder, psychotic disorder due to another medical condition, catatonia associated with another mental disorder, catatonic disorder due to another medical condition, unspecified catatonia, other specified schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorder, and unspecified schizophrenia spectrum and other psychotic disorder, bipolar and related disorders. Under bipolar related conditions, we have bipolar I disorder, bipolar II disorder, cyclothymic disorder, substance or medication-induced bipolar and related disorder, bipolar and related disorder due to another medical condition, other specified bipolar and related disorder, and unspecified bipolar and related disorder, depressive disorders. Here we have disruptive mood dysregulation disorder, major depressive disorder, which includes single and recurrent episodes, persistent depressive disorder, also known as dysthymia, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, substance or medication-induced depressive disorder due to another medical condition, other specified depressive disorder, and unspecified depressive disorder, anxiety disorders. Under anxiety disorders, we have separation anxiety disorder, selective mutism, specific phobia, which can include animal type, natural environment type, blood injection injury type, situational type, or other types. Social anxiety disorder, also called social phobia. Panic disorder, agoraphobia. Generalized anxiety disorder. We also include substance or medication-induced anxiety disorder due to another medical condition, other specified anxiety disorder, and unspecified anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive and related disorders. Under this cluster, we have obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, body dysmorphic disorder, hoarding disorder, trichotillomania, also known as hair-pulling disorder, excoriation disorder, also known as skin-picking disorder. There is also substance or medication-induced obsessive-compulsive and related disorder, obsessive-compulsive and related disorder due to another medical condition, other specified obsessive-compulsive and related disorder, and unspecified obsessive-compulsive and related disorder, trauma and stressor-related disorders. Here we include reactive attachment disorder, disinhibited social engagement disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, acute stress disorder, adjustment disorders which may involve depressed mood, anxiety, mixed anxiety and depressed mood, disturbance of conduct, mixed disturbance of emotions and conduct, or unspecified presentations. We also have other specified trauma and stressor-related disorder, and unspecified trauma and stressor-related disorder, dissociative disorders. Under dissociative disorders, we have dissociative identity disorder, dissociative amnesia, which may include dissociative fugue. Depersonalization and derealization disorder. Other specified dissociative disorder and unspecified dissociative disorder. Somatic symptom and related disorders. Here we have somatic symptom disorder, illness, anxiety disorder, conversion disorder, also called functional neurological symptom disorder, psychological factors affecting other medical conditions, factitious disorder, which can be imposed on self or imposed on another, other specified somatic symptom and related disorder, and unspecified somatic symptom and related disorder, feeding and eating disorders. Under this section, we have pica, rumination disorder, avoidant or restrictive food intake disorder, also known as ARFID, anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, binge eating disorder, other specified feeding or eating disorder, and unspecified feeding or eating disorder. Elimination disorders. Here we include enuresis, which may be nocturnal, diurnal, or both. Encopresis, which may involve constipation with overflow or occur without it. Other specified elimination disorder. And unspecified elimination disorder. Sleep-wake disorders. Under sleep-wake disorders, we have insomnia disorder, hypersomnolence disorder, narcolepsy. In breathing-related sleep disorders, we include obstructive sleep apnea, hypopnea, central sleep apnea, and sleep-related hypoventilation. Circadian rhythm sleep-wake disorders include delayed sleep phase type, advanced sleep phase type, irregular sleep-wake type, non-2-4-hour sleep-wake type, shift work type, and unspecified types. Parasomnias include non-REM sleep arousal disorders such as sleepwalking and sleep terrors, nightmare disorder, REM sleep behavior disorder, and restless leg syndrome. We also include substance or medication-induced sleep disorder, other specified sleep-wake disorder, and unspecified sleep-wake disorder. Sexual dysfunctions. Under sexual dysfunctions, we have delayed ejaculation, erectile disorder, female orgasmic disorder, female sexual interest or arousal disorder, genitopelvic pain and penetration difficulties, male hypoactive sexual desire disorder, premature or early ejaculation, substance or medication-induced sexual dysfunction, other specified sexual dysfunction, and unspecified sexual dysfunction when the symptoms don't fit neatly into any one label. Gender dysphoria. Under gender dysphoria, we have gender dysphoria in children, gender dysphoria in adolescents and adults, other specified gender dysphoria, and unspecified gender dysphoria for cases that are clear but don't match every criterion. Disruptive, impulse control, and conduct disorders. Under the disruptive and impulse control group of disorders, we have oppositional defiant disorder, intermittent explosive disorder, conduct disorder, antisocial personality disorder, pyromania, kleptomania, other specified disruptive or impulse control disorders, and unspecified conditions when symptoms are present but don't perfectly match a category. Substance-related and addictive disorders. Under substance-related and addictive disorders, we have alcohol use disorder, alcohol intoxication and withdrawal, caffeine intoxication and withdrawal, cannabis-related disorders of use, intoxication, withdrawal and other complications, hallucinogen-related disorders, including PCP-related conditions, other hallucinogen use, intoxication and persisting perception disorder, inhalant use disorder, and intoxication. Opioid-related disorders, including use, intoxication, withdrawal, and other complications. Sedative, hypnotic, anxiolytic use disorders with intoxication and withdrawal. Stimulant-related disorders involving amphetamines or cocaine. Tobacco use disorder and withdrawal. Gambling disorder, and other conditions like internet gaming disorder, which currently sits in a research appendix. Neurocognitive disorders. Under neurocognitive disorders, we begin with delirium. Then we move into the major neurocognitive disorders, those caused by Alzheimer's disease, frontotemporal degeneration, Lewy body disease, vascular disease, traumatic brain injury, substance or medication effects, HIV infection, prion disease, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease, other medical conditions, and mixed or multiple causes. We also include mild neurocognitive disorders with the same list of potential causes but a less severe impact. Personality disorders. Under the personality disorders, we have the classic clusters. In cluster A, we have paranoid personality disorder, schizoid personality disorder, and schizotypal personality disorder. In cluster B, we have antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. In cluster C, we have avoidant personality disorder, dependent personality disorder, and obsessive-compulsive personality disorder. We also include personality change due to another medical condition, other specified personality disorder, and unspecified personality disorder when the traits are present but don't fully match one type. Paraphilic disorders. Under paraphilic disorders, we have voyeuristic disorder, exhibitionistic disorder, frotteuristic disorder, sexual masochism disorder, sexual sadism disorder, pedophilic disorder, fetishistic disorder, transvestic disorder, other specified paraphilic disorders, and unspecified paraphilic disorders. Appendix D, environmental toxins, carcinogens, and parasites. Under environmental toxins, we begin with the air we breathe, where we inhale nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, and particulates making every breath feel like a Marlboro Light you never asked for. In the water we drink, we find microplastics, pesticides, and even antidepressant residues, creating a chemical soup with a nutritional value of diluted bleach. In the soil, we have arsenic, cadmium, and glyphosate, Earth's slow cooker for tumours. In food additives, we encounter nitrates, colourings, and aspartame, as though Willy Wonka converted his factory into a Tesco aisle. In plastics, we deal with BPA, phthalates, and PFAS, the notorious forever chemicals, meaning your child won't just use plastic, they'll practically become plastic. Under radiation and tech exposure, we face UV rays and electromagnetic fields, effectively making you a microwave dinner with legs. And under parasites, we have toxoplasma, tapeworms, and giardia, because even the organisms inside, you think you're a great Airbnb. Sources. Let's quickly run through the sources that inform this section. We start with the Office for National Statistics, or ONS, which provides detailed UK housing and cost of living data. Next, we have Zoopla and Rightmove, two major platforms that track UK property prices in real time. From the education sector, the Independent Schools Council offers reliable figures on private school fees. For healthcare, we look at data from Bupa and the NHS, covering medical costs and insurance estimates. When it comes to disability and long-term care, Scope UK and Care Guide provide essential cost breakdowns. For insights into social media and mental health, we draw on Jean Twenge's 2017 work iGen. In philosophy, we reference David Benatar's Better Never to Have Been. And finally, Julio Cabrera's A Critique of Affirmative Morality, which further explores the ethical dimensions of suffering